Well, and here we are live again. Pre-show, it's 9 o'clock, 4 minutes and 25 seconds after the top of the hour. We go live on Odyssey Radio. And how's everybody tonight? Matt Finn, good stuff. I've heard some of these things and never really looked into them very deeply for lack of time more than anything else. And yeah, I would love to look into this stuff. It looks really intriguing. What do you make of it is the big question I have there. So, Hey, Sarah Yusuf. Also, I know Professor Bauer's in there somewhere. There's Uncle Dave and June Shasta. I time traveled to get here on time tonight, she says. Well, welcome. I'm glad you made it. Was there a flux capacitor? Gadzooks. So, hey, Matthew Sansbury, how you doing? And greetings and hallucinations, everyone. This is Professor Bauer. So I think I'm all set up. Got the stream going. Oh, you know what I got to do? Since we're going to have Professor Bauer on here, I'm going to need to hook up my headset. I hate wearing headsets, even earbuds. But if I don't, you're going to get the God voice. And we can't have any of that. Hang on. I got to turn my computer a bit so I can reach the jack hole in the back. Where is it? Right there. I can feel it. Can I get it in the hole? Oh, up. Boom. There it is. Now that should end all my feedback. And we'll just put an ear in. There. One ear is all I need. Audrey, what are you doing here? So good to see you. Holiday weekend, you must have the night off or something, huh? Good to have you in here. Hey, Brianna, did I see my text? Your text on my phone? I'll let you know in a second. There it is. My mic's on. My banner's on. Thank you. Thank you, Brianna. So, I got it. Yeah. Banner's on. See, the banner's scrolling down below the window. And the mic is on. So we're good. Thank you, Brianna. I'm glad you're here. All right. There's Professor Bauer. Might as well just bring you in right away. Now we're going to start the show in about a minute. Less than a minute. We're going to go dark, Prof, and play the opener. And as always, folks, we go dark for a few seconds. And I think I'll start that process right now. So everyone, I'm going to remove you from there, Professor Bauer, and
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad, so he can take me to Disneyland.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.
Well, happy Friday evening, folks. It's me, Scotty Roberts, your host right here on the Intrepid radio program, broadcasting live on Odyssey Radio. That's ODYSY radio.com. Go on over, see all the goodness that's Odyssey Radio, and come over and watch the simulcast as well over on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. And while you're there, like the broadcast, give it a thumbs up. Hearty, pithy, perspicacious. There. The whole joke just fell flat because of my mispronunciations. I found the broadcast to be pithy and perspicacious. I give it a hearty thumbs up, 2 even. And join by subscribing if you haven't subscribed already over there. And you can hit the join button and join. You'll see a couple of different ways, 3 exactly, to how to join this channel. And you can watch it over also tonight on Facebook.com/Odyssey Radio. And so I want to thank you for being here. We are live over on Odyssey Radio, and we are also broadcasting right here on, and you know what? I got to do this. That was for my daughter's benefit. We're live. You missed the intro of the show. So come on over. What did you want to share with the world today?
Everything. Here, let me go get it.
Oh, okay. So we've got a little familial interlude. I'm going to bring, I'll bring Professor Bauer in when we're done with this. So regale us with, and you can see this stuff over on the YouTube channel, the simulcast in video, but you can't hear it. You can only hear it on radio. So take it away, Rowan, my 10-year-old.
Okay, well, like, I'm in love with Supernatural, so, like, Dad bought me stuff, like, today at, like, a garage sale, so, like he bought me these.
Let's see. What do you got?
Myself.
Gotta hold very still. There you go. Oh, that's the hunter's tattoo on a little bracelet. And then, of course, the word jerk on the other bracelet.
Yes.
I don't know if that's from Supernatural, but they were together. So, oh, yeah.
We got a Supernatural coloring book.
Went to a garage sale today and found all this great Supernatural memorabilia. And she's a big team dean. And we found this great coloring book from the series. Don't bump the mic with it if you can help it. Might send some strange sounds over the airwaves.
It shows you what colors they're supposed to look like by showing you the actual picture.
Now, how long ago did we get you that big cutout, life-size cutout of Dean Winchester for Christmas?
Maybe when I was like 8 or 7.
8 or 7? It had to be about 7, probably, is my guess. Sure, I can hold it.
Okay, now it is. This is a big thing.
I saw this on the wall. It was the first thing I saw. And I thought, I said to the woman running the sale, I said, nice Supernatural poster. And this is actually printed on that. It's material. It's cloth. I don't know exactly what it is. Shiny on one side. It's silky and smooth. and it's a cool poster. She can hang on her wall. So there you go. she wanted to show that all off today.
And then we're gonna
So
try
there's
to
your-
get me a supernatural wallpaper for my wall in my room.
And bedspreads and sheets and all that. There you go. Here's your book. Don't waste the pages. Color them nicely.
Well, look at, I need color pencils because this is
Yeah.
what crayons are doing to me right now, and they're not.
I
being
see.
very
You
nice.
you want to use color pencils on that. All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right, folks. That was my 10-year-old daughter, Rowan, not making her radio debut, as most of you know, but certainly on the radio, sharing her personal items, Supernatural. And now, you know,
And
yes.
we're watching Supernatural right now.
Okay, you go watch it. You got 15 more seasons to catch up on. Now she had watched this all the way up into the 12th season, and then we all trailed off in there somewhere. I finally watched the final season and the final episode of season 15, and she started all over today with season 1, back when the guys playing Dean and Sam were quite young, 15 years ago. And so she enjoys it, but at the same time, get this, she was watching a couple of episodes of Supernatural this afternoon, and now she wanted Mom to come with her to go to the upstairs bathroom, our master bathroom off our bedroom. And we're like giving her endless grief. It's like, oh, you can go in there. Just don't look in the mirror, because remember, mirrors are gateways for the demonic. And so she had a tough time going back into the bathroom. Here is Professor Bauer. Let's bring him in tonight. And we're going to talk about something that Professor Bauer, I got to tell you, very frankly, I didn't look at anything today. I didn't study anything today for this. I just wanted to be open to some of the stuff that you were presenting. And you're having all kinds of floaties coming in front of your camera. So if we were on Ghost Adventures, they'd say, passed in front of Professor Bauer's face. So, yeah, there's a new show, Iowa X, about their parents coming out called The Winchesters, about Dean and Sam's parents and Supernatural. I don't know. Did you ever catch that show, Professor Bauer?
No, I haven't. In fact, when I first heard that term, I was thinking of the Carolyn Corey documentary that's up on Amazon.
I haven't seen that.
Highly recommended, because it's all about what I think term supernatural and paranormal, because they're not para and they're not super. They are both just natural, in my opinion.
That's what I've always said. I don't like the term supernatural. I don't like the term paranormal, because it's all natural and it's all normal. It's all with us. Just because you can't experience everything or can't see them, or there's some veils you can't pierce with the conscious mind, doesn't mean it's not natural. It's all there.
Well, that's a whole nother show and I mean, that's a rabbit hole with
Yes, it
caverns
is.
and tunnels.
Yes.
Because consciousness is the reason that we're even doing what we're doing. Yet it's one of those things that is unexplained in the sciences and the metrics and the philosophies and the theologies and all the other things that define reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, time travel is one of those extremely interesting aspects, in my opinion, of the whole consciousness experience.
Now, I want to get into that as deep as you want to get. Let's introduce this a little bit. Everybody's kind of familiar with the term time travel. Time travel. Can you, and it all it really is, by stating the two words, you're posing a hypothetical question. Is time travel even possible?
Well,
time travel.
And to that point, and to your other point about not doing anything today, preparing for this, which doesn't surprise me. I'll just, have to slide that. I've got a couple of I've got a couple of screen shares because one of the things that I ramble and rant and ride on far too much for most people, including myself sometimes, is the definition of words and the terms that people use to define the reality that they are experiencing, right? And as I was saying the other night, I think there's this band of common reality, all these frequency sets that we all apparently inhabit, because if we didn't share the same reality in some way, shape, or form, we certainly wouldn't be doing this. So
That's right.
I've got a couple of things I'd like to share. Do you see that now?
Not yet.
Hold on.
And by the way, time travel it's one of those things that some people say is absolutely impossible. Some science will say that. Others will say, I've done it already.
Mhm.
And you tend to listen to the people who say, I've done it, and say, no, you haven't. Bullshit. And, that's the way. And then you hear their explanation is, well, I traveled back in my memories, and so therefore I'm time traveling. I'm going, that's not time travel. That's just daydreaming about things you've done in your past.
Well, but your point is exactly my point. Your definition of time travel versus somebody else's definition of time travel,
right,
can be vastly different. So let's
start
with...
And even if it involves, to me, time travel takes on that science fiction type of air about it. When I say I would like to travel back in time or forward in time, mostly backward. I'm a historian. I would love to go back and see certain things in history. I'd love to be able to say, I can step through this door and I am there when an event was taking place 750 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, and I got my camera and I'm going to take some pictures so I can bring them back with me.
Yeah.
And so this is the way I have always conceived of time travel, or time travel like in Star Trek, slingshotting around the sun and ending up back in 1967 or 2000 or whatever it is.
And having the whole grandfather effect and the paradox of, are you observing or are you manipulating and changing? All of that stuff. Well, I was going to save this till later, but I'll go ahead and drop it in now because it will be kind of a
seed. Let me add this to the stream.
It'll be
and I'm going to drop the banner here. So that banner. Boom. There we go.
Okay. So here's a little seed. In my current thinking and experience of reality, it seems to me that we are not living in the past, nor even in the present. We're always living in the future.
The future of what? The future of the present.
The future that is unfolding from this second to now this second to now this second. Right
now, that second 2 seconds ago is already in the past. So yes. So are we ever really in the present for but a split second?
Where I think we'll explore some of that, but let's start with the definition of time.
All right.
So we have a level playing field of the terms and the concepts we're going to talk about, because they go from the physical to the metaphysical, and there's some really interesting, strange, and I've just selected a few of a plethora of really odd. What is, you, as you know, in archaeology, that are ooparts, out of place artifacts, out of place evidence, out of place. What was that? It's documented. Somebody's splained, nobody's splaining, because there is no splaining in the current definition of the way that things are defined. So anyway, time, the measured or measurable period of which, during which an action, process, or condition exists or continues. Duration.
Yeah, we're talking linear time.
Duration is a verb. It's a movement, right? Non-spatial continuum that is measured in terms of events which succeed one another from past through present to future. Okay. So basically, time is a metric. And it's something that is measured by the passing of stuff and the unfolding of the next. Right?
Right.
And I think some of these are really, I'm fascinated by a lot of these, there's physicists and some really interesting philosophers and thinkers who say, time is an illusion, right?
Right.
And it is something that is concocted in our own consciousness. It's something that exists because we think it does, right?
I've heard that. I don't go along with that.
That's the prevailing kind of The definition of it from time is it doesn't exist.
Time only exists because I perceive it.
Yeah.
Time will go on whether I perceive it or not.
And one of the things that I always find fascinating, and I think you can certainly relate to this. Well, if time doesn't exist, then how come there's a bunch of really old shit
Yes.
that's apparently been around for a long time? And
why did the cheese have mold on it today?
There's incredible debates on all kinds of the different metrics and sciences that are using that. But nonetheless, time is this measurement of something from one point to another, as it's understood in our consciousness. Now, time travel. What is time travel? What's the definition of time travel? So they go on to say there's an extensive literature on time travel in both philosophy and physics. Part of the great interest of the topic stems from the fact that reasons have been given for both thinking that time travel is physically possible and for thinking that it is logically impossible.
There you go.
Right?
And those two things coexist.
And that's one of the great paradoxes of having a flexible mind, being able to hold two things that are opposed simultaneously and ponder them, give them their due, whether you understand them or agree with them or whatever. So time travel, there's two aspects of it. There's this physical, as they said here,
right,
that some think is possible, and then there's thinking about it and going, logically that doesn't, how can you do that? How can that happen? And if it is so, is there any evidence of said time travel by anyone? Is there any demonstrable physical evidence that somebody can say, I actually traveled in time? And that is where the stories get strange, wild, and interesting.
Yes, it does.
Let's start with, and this is one of the fundamental things that I use in the Informatica to gauge my grasp of reality. Okay. It seems to me that if you, one of the most effective ways to determine your state of time, how much you understand the state of time you're in, and what you do with it, is to make predictions. You take the data that you have, and in fact, that's part of being conscious constantly in the future, because whether we realize it or not, we're always making predictions about what we're going to do next, or what we need to do next, or what we should do next, right? So in a sense, those are predictions. We're thinking about those things manifesting and wanting to do them. But you can get really interesting, very deep and very interesting data when you look at what's considered to be the mystics, the mystery schools teachings, and in particular, the Oracle of Delphi as an example.
Okay.
So remember, we're talking about time travel.
Yep.
We're talking about two different aspects of it. Of one's metaphysical, one's physical. We're in the metaphysical right now. And part of traveling in time, you should be able to see something in the future and get that information somehow, right? Because time travel there seems to be more interest in the future of traveling in time than there is going back. However,
I will say that my interest in time travel would always be if I had a device or a mode of transportation to different time periods, I would more than likely go backward than I would forward. I don't necessarily want to know what's going on in the future. I want to know what things were really like in the past. Now that's my preference. And of course, time travel, I don't think the concept of time travel is so hard to sound plausible. The plausibility factor lies in the mode of travel. And so we can get all esoteric and say, Well, we travel in time every day. I'm traveling time right now. You're all traveling time right now. We can do that, and that's where I'd reach out across the table and probably slap the guy saying me, say, you know damn well that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the fact that I'm living from moment to moment and therefore I am a time traveler. No.
Well,
I want to know. I want mode. I want to go somewhere. I want to punch in a date with my flux capacitor,
right.
and end up in, on a certain date in a certain time in a certain place.
So you're speaking specifically of the physical side
Physical
of time
travel, right?
and I'm poking around right now over on the metaphysical.
Yeah, you're
side.
still in the
Okay, but I
mental
agree
time
with what
travel.
you're saying. In the new Star Trek series, I think it's in both Discovery and Strange New Worlds. You remember in the original Star Trek, they had to get to the teleporter, and they had to get there and then get beamed out, right?
Yes, yes.
The transporter. And now they've got the personal transporters.
Yeah, that's in the Discovery one,
Is
which
that-
is taking place 1,000 years in the future.
Yes, right.
So
let's go back to this. I'm trying to make sure I don't lose this track and thread, because it will come back to itself. Travel, we're talking about time travel. We define time in a constant place. We said it's the measurement of one thing to the next. Time travel, we have said, we've just delineated as both physical and metaphysical. There's two aspects of it. There's all kinds of information and data about both, and we're starting on the metaphysical, and we're going to use the Oracle of Delphi as our first example of traveling in the future metaphysically.
Okay.
So it's time travel for specific information about something that may happen. Well, the whole the main focus of the Oracle of Delphi was the centaurs and the Roman kings, and all of the guys would come in and they'd say, all right, we have to consult the Oracle about going to war with the Byzantine brothers over here, or the Persians. Or
here, let me cut
whatever.
open a dove, and I shall splay its guts in this bowl, and we'll read them.
We'll take his entrails and drag it across the town square and let everyone
It's
have
a potent,
taste, but only a taste. You can only touch it with your tongue.
Yes.
So the whole idea was that's what she had as a superpower. She was apparently good, knew how to do it, and there was apparently a lot of chemicals involved.
Yes.
Some natural, some concocted. There's all kinds of stories, but the main story is she'd inhale this stuff and the stuff would come out.
That's it. Now, and then, of course, and I know you're going to address this some, but I want to jump the gun a little bit and just say, to me, psychic prediction or prognostication or reading the future, say, for instance, when I do it with tarot readings, I'll say there are 2 cards in this 10-card spread that give you an idea of the direction you're going in. This one says the near future. This one is the outcome. And it's all based on the energies that we've been reading. Now, to me, when you start predicting the future like an oracle could, are you physically traveling into the future to see it? It's all psychic? What's happening is information is predictive information filtering into your mind, or is that oracle or that psychic actually mentally traveling there and seeing information? It seems that the information is always presented up on a platter. Oh, I see you will be married, and that marriage will end in tragedy. The dagger will go through your eyes twice, and your heart will explode, and you'll be eaten by worms, and your kingdom shall be taken by your enemy. I need a drink of water now. Now, is she seeing all of that, or is that information filtering into her brain?
Well,
Nostradamus, a good example.
In my interpretation of consciousness and reality, this thing that is known throughout various belief systems called, generally referred to as the Akashic Records. Okay.
Yeah.
That to me is a piece of the cosmic database, the cosmic computer, the cosmic, and we can get into simulation another time, but there is, to me, it's consciousness creates energy, which creates matter.
Okay.
And everything else falls from that. Matter,
And Akashic
energy.
Record, by the way, took me a long time to really grasp that, because I'm like, really, everything's written down in this big book?
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is, you
so to
can't think of
speak.
it as a book. You have to think of it as information, right? So
Right.
that's what the informatica is based on. To me, everything
Database.
is information. There's some way, shape, or form that whatever it is you experience, whether you can define it, articulate it, express it, draw it, recreate it, or not. All of that is information that's stored in that frequency signature that it makes you.
Okay.
Your consciousness. To me, this explains savants that have these unimaginable skill sets that you go, how in the hell does that happen? And psychics and tarot readers and astrologers and numerologists and all of those are just different ways and different metrics of the frequency set that makes up the universe, that is begat of consciousness. So, and we're getting really squirreled here, but my point is that when you ask, do you go physically or not, or is it a psychic thing? If you take consciousness, don't use the word psychic. Is a component of consciousness. It is a habit. It is the nature of consciousness. We all are psychic. We all have varying degrees of psychic abilities, and we have the opportunity to pick some and go manifest them and make as much out of them as we can. And some people, I mean, it's no different. Remote viewing is one of the best examples of taking a system and a process and turning it into a methodology, and then creating a definable, repeatable set of experiments and information that makes you go, all right, explain that.
Right.
How does somebody sit there with a set of numbers and then accurately describe the target without having any idea what it is? They go there, they mentally go, varying depending on the targets and the viewers. These guys will have all kinds of different experiences, including encounters with entities at the target. Yes.
Okay. My mother, I told this story on a program a long time ago, but my mother had a guy that had come to one of her parties at her house, and I was there. God, this had to be 20 years ago. But just a guy from the neighborhood showed up at where she did some of her stuff, and he said that he once worked with the CIA in the remote viewing. And he told me what it was and the name of it and all that. He said, you can look it up. He says, it's a real thing. He says, you won't be able to find me or verify my stories, but he said he got out of it. And mostly because of some of the things that he had seen, the fact that things there on the other end were seeing him too, when he was supposed to be just mentally or psychically, if you will, going somewhere to view something. And when he got seen, he got a little frightened, and he kind of backed out of it after that. And so all of that to say, I understand that some of those things exist. I've heard some pretty good stories about it. But linking that, as we mentioned even last night, to time travel, where are you going with that?
So the metaphysical side, there's the ability to apparently dial into this Akashic record, this cosmic database and computer network of all that is, right? That is got a whole bunch of data. And what we're seeing here is people like Nostradamus, Blavatsky, Edgar Casey. Okay. These people did remarkable things. They were at a point in time and they went somewhere else in time. They gathered data and they brought it back. And then that data was later verified. And
Yes.
that's what remote viewers do. So that is a time and space travel, right?
Which, by the way, if you would ever like to see a good movie on that, wasn't a big blockbuster movie. It had Ben Kingsley in it, the guy who played Gandhi years ago in lots of movies, British actor. Something about this covert astral projection and seeing things. Really a well done movie. I couldn't think of the name of it. You'll have to look it up.
So let's go from the metaphysical side to the physical side, right? This is now starting to lean in to, not necessarily having a button, but this is some of the technology that appears to have shown up at some point. The Chronovisor, okay, which was apparently developed by this, he was an Anglican.
Was that supposed to be Jesus?
Yes.
Look, I took a picture of Jesus.
Yeah. This was a shot.
Funny how he looks like all the paintings.
Right? Yeah, Pellegrino Ernetti's, yes. So he developed this based on some technology that he found, was gifted, and was able to, and you see the device allowed its user to see and hear events from the past, not a time machine that sent a person back in time, but rather a sort of time
like sending
viewer,
a mental drone back,
which brought the past into the present. The device could tune into specific events of the past and display them on a screen like a time traveling television.
Interesting.
Now let's think about that for a second. If you were able to get on your computer and instead of doing this right now, you're able to say, I'd like to go look at this time.
I'd do it. Without a question. If I could, call up the app and go time travel on my computer,
right,
and take screenshots, that'd be kind of cool.
It's not going physical, but I mean, it's not a bad substitute.
It's next best thing.
So that's the Chronovisor, and I encourage you to. I'll put these links in the chat, and people can go check them out. Now,
what was ever the bottom line with him and his device?
The device
was it?
No, I think the device was eventually, it disappeared, as most things would be,
of course,
of this nature. Let's see. I don't recall. It's in the article here somewhere. So
okay, we can go look that up.
So this is another interesting aspect of time travel and teleportation. Are you familiar with Andrew Basiago?
Yes.
So the project Pegasus that he claims to be involved in was both time travel and teleportation.
Okay.
And so his claim is that in the early 70s, we had the technology to teleport and transport, or time travel port.
Okay.
So
in the context of time travel. Okay.
Yeah, and this is a guy who has pictures. Let's see here.
Yeah, let's see his photos. Not going to believe you unless you show me the pictures.
You got to show me the pictures, right? Where did it go? Hold on here. See if we can find his Wikipedia.
So he said in the 70s he was already teleporting.
Yeah.
Up to images, maybe. And you can.
He's got his website here somewhere.
So it seemed to me that if you have the ability to take pictures or bring back photos or watch something on a screen that's able to be, for the purpose really of finding out if it really happened or not, you've got something going for you there.
Let me get so the picture is What he did was he time traveled back to the Gettysburg Address.
Okay. Can you go to images in your menu bar?
I'm going to do the
and see if it calls up his other stuff. Gettysburg. Getty.
fat finger and stuff here. Okay, so this.
Okay, I think I've seen this. That's him, right?
Okay. And he told the whole. I mean, look at the kid's shoes. Well, he tells the whole story about what happened when he
click
got
on
there.
that. Enlarge that a little bit. I want to see that.
Let's see here.
Let's see if we can see that picture for everybody watching. You can take a look at that. I think if you just click on it, maybe you can see a bigger version of that.
This one's not letting us do. Let's see if there's another one here.
I've seen this picture before. It's a kid in modern clothing. Now, I, as a Photoshop guru, a digital Photoshop guru, I could create that picture with a picture of myself or a picture of my son. And I could make it look exactly like that. So when did he first reveal these pictures?
I believe it was in the mid 80s or the early 90s. I first became aware of him in the late 90s. He's a lawyer up in Seattle. Incredible mind. You listen to any of his interviews, and this guy is as authentic and intelligent as you can get. Very much worth checking out his.
Well, let's see. Does he have any other pictures other than that one?
No, this is the only one that is of that.
Oh, it's where he goes back, or
Right.
he comes back and he finds himself. Here, click on the one almost right there at the bottom row, third from the left. You see that one where you see a photo, and they've tried to clean it up a little bit.
It looks just like him as a kid.
Yeah.
So anyway, as I said, I'll put the link in the chat or in the description, and I encourage you to check that out. So here are two different aspects of technology, the physics. You got a chronovisor, which apparently allows you to dial in something on your screen, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Then you have this
kind of neat.
So that's a chronovisor. So that's time travel. You have apparently this project Pegasus, which has been going on for over 50 years. Can you imagine what they're doing now if this story is true? And
right.
There's been
Dave Potter says that he first saw those on Art Bell's site. So they're at least in Art Bell's site archives. So pretty far.
Then continuing on the technology side, you have Project Looking Glass.
Right. Heard of this one.
Okay.
Merging timelines.
So it's interesting that there appears to be, and has been for a while, technology that enables this dematerialization of not only your body but your consciousness, and enables that teleportation and transportation to another time and another place. When you go back to that definition of what is time travel, that second part of that, is it's logically impossible.
Logically, it is impossible.
I mean, it kind of makes you go,
yeah.
But then you watch Star Trek, and you go, well, I don't know.
Lelania said that it's weird that there's a law in China that makes time travel illegal. What are they illegalizing there in China?
I would think that if it was that easy, or not necessarily easy, but if it was something that had been around for a long time, and I think remote viewing, the Oracle, Nostradamus, Edgar Casey, all of these people that have the metaphysical connections to time travel.
Yes.
That's been around for millennia, and I think it's been around since we've been around, because I think it's, as I said, it's a part of the habit and nature of consciousness that creates the reality that we inhabit.
And of course, everybody asks that question. If time travel exists, how come we haven't seen time travelers from the future? Well, yeah, maybe we have.
Don't you think that we would see, I mean, and it's just from a observational logic perspective, don't you think that we would see more of what we would consider solid evidence of time travel now than we have? Because we really haven't seen that much. We've seen these anecdotal things and these interesting stories that can't be dismissed, but they can't be proven either.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I agree with you. Antonio G says, how is it possible to travel in time to the future if the future has not happened yet? Well, there's the big question. Has it happened yet? Is time linear? I used to go back to a biblical text on this when I was describing time, and actually the other way around, I was describing God. So the Bible has a verse in it that says, God is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and 1,000 years is as a day with God. And he knows all things, omniscient, omnipresent, all this, and so on. And so I used to say, I think God, when he created the universe, now we're speaking, of course, totally in a biblical context. This was back when I was in theology and church work. I said, I think when God created mankind, or created the universe as we know it, he created something and contained it within something. So when he created the physical universe, he created along with it linear time. And that God himself, probably from descriptions of himself in scriptural text, God probably exists outside of linear time. So the universe and all of linear time are like on this little globe you can shake up on God's desk. Oh, look at, I moved the stars. Oh, watch this. Entropy. Anyway, so that's a biblical, a theological take that I had taken on timelines and God. That now take if you want to take the spirit, the religion out of it, the theology out of it. Is time something that's contained? Is linear time different than the rest of the universe or rest of the dimensions that are out there? What do you think?
Well, when you start talking about time and space in the context of an omniverse, multiverse, dimensional Earths, if that's a word, that brings in a whole nother level of mind jockey. You're trying to ride nuggets in your noggin, and they're coming from every direction. That's
right.
And there are ways in which you can, the scientists and the theologians and those who study for to own the domains have all kinds of really creative ways in which they describe it. When you look across the continuum of how time and particularly, it's always about, one of the common denominators is there are delineations of essentially 3 levels, mostly 2. But there's Earth's surface, there's under the earth, and there's above the earth. And there are things and people and entities and species and stuff that inhabit all 3 realms.
Yes.
And most of that seems to be of an energetic nature, because while there are hints of these things in carvings and writings and mythos and stories and legends and whatever, there's not a lot of evidence. There are some parts out there, skulls and skeletons and odd metals and materials, and obviously the megalith thing is like, you can't, I don't know how you can be an archaeologist and be devoted into a particular field of study for any particular civilization, and obviously the Egyptians come to mind, how you can be in that state right now and believe any of the narrative.
Right.
If you're doing it only because you can, that's what's required to get the stamp on your piece of paper.
Yes. Get matriculated and
but damn the facts, damn the new evidence. Don't throw something in that's counter to what we already know. And that's happening in every knowledge domain. It's not just archaeology. And because it's this great reveal of the shit we've been told for at least the last 6 or 7 decades, if not 200 years plus, is all bullshit. It's
and you know where I think a lot of that bullshit comes from is people want to speculate about any given thing, politics to science to religion to time travel to whatever. They speculate from within their own conscious sphere of understanding something, and they put that out, and we see decades of proliferation of that growing one on top of the other, this exponential expanding of a simple thought that was put forward into theories, into whole lifestyles, into something. We're seeing a lot of that now. And I dare say what we have seen in the last 5 years has really pushed a lot of people to the point of saying, you know what, I don't believe shit anymore. And I need to start testing the waters a little better.
It's simultaneously liberating and scaring the living shit out of people.
Yes.
Because when your paradigm of your belief system, all of a sudden you get data, hardcore, immutable, sovereign, chain of custody, put whatever you want on it. You know that data is indisputable. And it completely wrecks whatever belief or view you had of something that you held as your part of your core of existence. You're going to have some trouble.
Yes.
Because now you not only have to recalibrate that, and that's after your gyroscope stops spinning or somebody grabs it and holds on to it for you. But there's going to be a lot of that, unfortunately. But at the same time, it's necessary. And, everybody has their time of awareness.
Yes.
Not necessarily awakening, but you become aware of things.
Yes.
And go ahead.
I was going to say, we've got 3 minutes left of this show.
What?
Before we are off the air. Yeah, really. And so with that 3 minutes, tell us, is time travel possible? Is physical time travel possible? We just started hitting on some stuff here tonight.
I think that for me to wrap my mind around a bilocation of my entity, my consciousness and my physical, to wrap my mind around being able to do that, bilocate, the whole physical thing,
that's a rough one.
I'm still struggling with, but I can see it, but I just can't feel it.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm going to do the metaphysical side and do bilocation to another time and place, I'm all in.
That's plausible. That's workable. It's like the old science fiction novel I read years ago where they didn't have to rely on any kind of propulsion system to travel to the other end of the universe. They had it linked in. If you could think it in your mind, you could propel yourself there through thought.
Yes.
So I get it. I get what that is.
So
So
time travel is both it's both possible and real.
Yes.
And the only the piece that's missing any kind of hard empirical data is the physical side of time travel.
Yes.
The metaphysical side, hands down, no doubt. Yes, it is. It's there.
And let me say to Antonio G in the chat room, I just gave Professor Bauer crap for saying the same thing to me at the beginning of the show. So, so I believe time travel every day as the hours pass by. We travel through time. Yeah, I know. We're all traveling time right now. That ain't what I'm talking about. So we've got about a minute left before we go off air over at Odyssey Radio. Professor Bauer, stick around because we're going to do the after show, the Captain's Cabin. And
Yes,
anybody
indeed.
can join us over on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. Now tell the radio audience in 10 seconds where they can find you.
You just look around and if you find me, you're supposed to.
There it is. There was 7 seconds of that 10 seconds. All right.
Bauer.media. That's wherever.
Bauer.media.com.
Yes. Yes. No.
And or
Bauer.media.
not a .com. All right, everybody. Hang on, everyone. We're gonna go out with a flash here and go off on the radio station. So I just want to say right now, you know what? Live long and prosper.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.
And guess what? We're back. Welcome back to the YouTube channel for the Captain's Cabin. And right now I'm going to cut off there so I can take off my headset because I hate having that on. And so another show in the can, another live show over on Odyssey Radio. And welcome everybody to the after show. I don't know how long we'll go tonight. It is Friday night, but I don't want to stay up all night either. So let's see if we've got Professor Bauer still hanging in the wings. You can see his logo floating there. He'll be back in as soon as he wants to be, and we'll go from there. Hey, Michelle Cannonfree, you're woefully late. Yeah, you just missed the show. Thank you, Michelle. Goodbye. Good night. Live long and prosper. I'm kidding. So Outwalking Satan? Oh, Outwalking Solo. There you go. No sense of time. I get that. Priorities. It's priorities. And so Lelania say, I say, no one has any idea what's really real. So just believe what you want to believe and let others believe what they want to believe. Well, there's that. Except you'll have theology telling you God is a jealous God. He wants you to believe in him or Allah or whoever. So that's the wrangling we have to do, isn't it? So Iowa X, I was expecting him to chop up younglings. Okay, not sure what I missed there. I'm sure I missed context. I believe Lelania's right. Lelania's right, says June Shasta. You wonder about it. You really do. You have to wonder. Because there is nothing solid. And then we've had these talks before about faith and faith issues. And what is it we're supposed to believe, and so on. Oh, Vader and Obi-Wan. Yeah. My son was telling me that just hit today. So got to watch that one. A couple of good things on TV I want to watch. I've been watching Strange New Worlds, Star Trek, the Captain Pike and Spock saga. So that's pretty good. They're 4 episodes into this season. It's really, really well done. And they've maintained that episodic flair. While, of course, there's an arc with the characters and backstories and all of that. There is no story-to-story arc. So it's all episodic in nature, and I like that. The Gorn battle. I actually turned that on late last night when I got back home, and I fell asleep in the middle of it, even though it was Star Trek. It couldn't keep me from falling asleep, but it was really good. So I've got to tune that one back in later and finish that one off. The Gorn battle. And the Gorn, they didn't even know who the Gorn were until Kirk had his battle with the famous battle with the Gorn in the original series. This is pre-original series. So it's I haven't seen how they handled that little, time play thing there. So,
well, I think they've been doing an outstanding job. Both, Discovery. I'm through the fourth, halfway through the 4th season or something. And at first, I was like, okay, now you're not. You got to.
They lost me at the beginning of the 4th season, and I drifted. So,
well, by the 4th season, at least the storylines has been pretty good throughout most of it. There's been a little too much character development and interplay, and it for me is like, okay, move along. I see what you're doing, but eventually, in the 4th season, the tech and the toys they've been doing on these on the sets are just amazing. I'm like, okay, I want one of those, and I want some of that.
Yep.
And but the one thing that I have noticed that I find kind of, and maybe you can give some insight to this, Captain, is why is the captain's chair still this old square, looks totally uncomfortable, not man chair? What is going on there? What?
I don't know. They had to
you notice that?
They changed it up a little bit. It's got some angles on it now.
You know what I'm talking about, though, right?
I do. It's Pike's chair, the square white chair with the leather seat on it.
The rest of the ship is the shit.
I know, it's amazing.
The chair just looks out of place.
Yeah, I like it. The only reason I like it is because you go, oh, that's from the original. That's reminiscent of the original.
Yeah,
and that's what makes it cool. But yeah, it fits. Lelania was going to watch Stranger Things tonight, but then I realized it was time for Scotty's show. Look at a woman with her priorities straight. She came here instead of watching Stranger Things. So you mean Stranger Things, or are you talking Stranger Things or Strange New World? So drop the link, says Dave. What link?
Probably one of the ones that I was talking about, or something else.
One of Bauer's links? Oh, wait. I think he means the Dave. I didn't even have to send it to Bauer. He just clicked on it in the show notes. So here, let me find it. Let's invite Uncle Dave.
Incoming.
He needs the link to get into the studio. Paste. Boom. There it is. There is the studio line where you can come and line up. We'll see you down in the wings. And I'll see you when you pop in a little tiny window down in the corner. And,
so here's another show that that I have found just beyond. I didn't have any expectations other than I thought it's going to be like a video game, and that's it's Halo. Holy shit!
No, I haven't seen that one.
Whoa, the series is like what? I mean, it is serious. It's got it's got a bunch of very interesting things. But one of the things that I find very fascinating is the perspective is so, the VR and augmented reality games where you've got the immersed reality, right?
Yes.
So you're in it. So it's like you're doing the shooting. There's enough of that, but not too much to where it is. I mean, the production is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, highly recommend it.
That's what I've heard. Hey, we got Uncle Dave Potter, sitting in the wings. I think he's in the closet he's been working on. So let's bring him in. Boom,
Hey.
there he is. Hey.
How are you? I'm going to change
good.
this a little bit.
How you doing, Uncle Dave?
Good. Well, that didn't work.
Now, Uncle Dave has been working on this big walk-in closet for a kid of his friend. It's a mural and stagecraft he's been working on here. And he has built a dollhouse into this tree. He did the painting in the background in the closet, and then he built out this tree with theatrical foam, like theatrical styrofoam. And he's got the door, and there's a hidden inside there is a dollhouse that recedes into the wall. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome. That is
so he's
awesome.
Got that.
Dave. Wow.
And then it goes up in the ceiling. It goes around to both the walls. So she could actually sit in there. And she's got her own little private fairy forest.
I'll give you a quick tour.
Yeah, give us a tour, Dave. Uh-oh, he goes into the closet and the broadcast stops. No, there's nothing. You're there. You're there. We see you.
Up above the shelf is a long ways away, and then down here it's in the near and mid range.
Below the canopy.
Yeah.
Whoa, that is some beautiful work. Beautiful.
And I'm really impressed with the 3-dimensional tree.
You've got dimension going all over this thing. And that's what's really cool is you've got the dimension in the forest, and then that tree just looks like it's exactly where it's supposed to be.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. That's awesome.
That is just awesome. Absolutely.
And you've got real lights in the walls, right? For the fairy lights.
There's lights making down below. They're like fireflies in the dark shadows, and up above they're like fairies flying in the trees.
So they went behind. I saw a photograph you had taken of the back side of that wall where you went into the next room over, took off the wall, and drilled all your little holes for your LED lights. And it's all wired up. There's like 100 lights in there, it looked like, with wires all over the place coming out of the back side of that painting. And so it's pretty cool. Outstanding, Dave. Good stuff.
Okay. Time travel.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so I was following the guy you were talking about earlier. It's got the Gettysburg pictures and stuff. I've been looking at his stuff since I would say it's the very early 90s. And yes, Photoshop existed, but did you just make the professor go away?
We just lost Professor Bauer. He'll be back. His feed just dropped.
I know what that's like.
If you can, tip your camera a little bit because we're seeing your head right at the bottom of the frame.
I'm using my tablet, and it only gives me so much for settings, and it keeps wanting to just fall over.
Oh, I hear you. That's a little
let me see if I can find a book to stick under that leg.
All right. Isn't that gorgeous work, folks? Dave and I do murals together. We haven't done one in a few years together. He's doing his own thing. I'm doing my own thing sometimes. But let
me see that one. Is that better?
That's better.
That's better. We'll go with that.
I like that.
So, so I'm in the process of painting tonight, and I just thought I would continue to paint and just stay Because when I try and get on the road, it always falls apart. And so I thought, well, I'll just stay here and we can chat while I paint.
There it is.
And I'm at a point where I'm letting the layer dry. So
yes. So time travel. You were talking about time travel, Dave. Sorry we lost you.
So I've been following that guy since I heard about him on Art Bell. He's one of the guys that called in, I think Art had him on as a guest. I think there's an archive show where Art had him, and he goes into great detail. So if you're interested in what he was showing you with that picture from Gettysburg, go to the Art Bell archives and look that up. And I can't tell you exactly when it was, but if you do a sub search under time travelers, he'll pop up.
Mm-hmm.
And he was an actual guest on the show, and Art interviewed him, and they talked extensively, and he posted pictures, and that's an excellent one to look into. John Titor is another one that threw a lot of stuff out there. Some of it has come true and some of it hasn't, but then the whole concept of him being here was to alter some of that stuff so it wouldn't happen. So the fact that it doesn't happen, does that mean he was successful, or does that mean he was full of shit? We don't know.
Right.
Well, to my point, I was making, what happened to my fucking camera?
You turned your camera off.
That goes to my point I was making earlier, Dave, about if time travel, and think about it from one of the interesting aspects, I think, that the Star Trek in particular brings to mind is the future, right?
Yes.
And what it would be like 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now, whatever, right? And we think of it as an evolution of our species and our capabilities and our tools and our technologies and the resulting capabilities and all that. You would think that there are probably, at least in my view, we have cosmic or cousins, galactic nieces and nephews that are all a part of this, apparently this carbon-based, hydrogen-oriented materium that we seem to collectively inhabit. And there's all kinds of nuances and little aspects and crazy stuff and variables and parts all over the place.
Right.
If time travel was something that was on the physical side, because again, as I was saying earlier, metaphysically, I'm in, yes, time travel is something that you can do with your mind, with your consciousness. Demonstrated over and over again. It's empirical. It's true. It doesn't matter whether you want to believe it or not. It doesn't care. Because it's there, because it happens. It would seem to me, and this is just because of my limited understanding and aspect of the entire domain of this subject, it would seem to me that if the physical side was more a part of the nature and habit of consciousness and reality, just very, very highly focused, and a set of energy frequencies that you really got to manifest in order for it to work. But if you can get it there, it'll happen. I look at it and go, well, and maybe it could be just a lack of information, but I would think we would have more examples of actual physical time travel.
Okay, so
in the database that we currently have available.
I understand that. So in the anecdotal, but I believe it's actually logged evidence, when NASA was on its first landing, the astronauts on multiple interviews have talked about ships and beings that were on the rim of a crater not far away that came and watched them land and watched them do their experiments.
Right.
I've long theorized that if we had time travel, if they have time travel in the future and you wanted to go back to see historical events, isn't that one of the events you'd want to see, the first landing on the moon?
Sure.
And so maybe that's what that is people from the future coming in, or archaeologists or scientists or whatever, coming in to actually watch that first landing and watch those first experiments from afar because they're obviously not just going to walk up and say, "Hey, I'm Professor John. Oh, nice to meet you," and all this. They're,
Yeah.
because they can't change the history theoretically. You don't want to change it, but they talk about it. They talk about it on their private channel, that they're back or they're there, and so on and so forth. And I think that happens on a couple of the first few missions. And so I think that's worth, looking into the evidence. If they logged it, and if they did, and from what I've seen on TV shows, it is logged. You can do a Freedom of Information Act for that information and stuff. You can get those private channel conversations, and you can get the transcripts from them. That's evidence that's empirical, that's documented by the U.S. government.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you think about it from the dimensional perspective, like we were talking about, I think towards the end of the show.
Yeah.
That introduces a whole nother realm of structure. Is the best word I can use right now, but there has to be, because we are in structure. Everything that we perceive with the information apparatus that we have, the senses that we have, only captures enough for us to exist here. There's a shitload on up and down and sideways that's out there of what we are capable and what we need to function. There's a whole bunch of other frequencies, right?
I agree.
So
I'm a huge fan of the Akashic field. I believe in that.
So I don't know. It seems to me that, and there's been a number of, there was Teeter, as you mentioned, Valiant Thor,
another one,
right? And you go, well, okay, and then you just veer off course just a little bit, and you go poking around in this, in what's the umbrella term of disclosure, right? So there's been all these events since, was it 2017 when they first came out and said, here it is. New York Times did that. And, the Pentagon says we've got something that we don't know, we can't explain. And therefore it's now being called UAP instead of UFO. And you go, okay, so we're getting a slow drip of information that people who have been labeled conspiracy theorists. I prefer the term conspiracy analyst. And the one thing that I have noticed is that every conspiracy I've chased, at least half of it or more has been true.
Yeah.
And I'm going, so I can't tell. It's a gift that keeps on giving.
I can't tell you on an open airwave like this, but I had a conversation with a guy from the government that you and I should talk about, or you and I and Scotty could talk about privately, but related to Valiant Thor. And it was very interesting.
There is an amazing number of oddities, that knowledge parts, right? Where you look at it and you go, how can you not put that into the data set and run it through some type of analysis? How can you not take that data and seriously consider it, examine it, analyze it, and objectively, from a neutral perspective, first principles, what is it? What is the available information about it? And now that's when you start forming the questions. And the most important thing are the questions. What are you asking? What are you looking at? What are you trying to ascertain after you've given it some delineation, distinction, diffientiation, definition of whatever the fuck it is?
Well, and I think you also have to look at some of this forbidden archaeology, items that show up at archaeological levels where they should not exist.
Right.
And yet they're there.
Yep.
and they're documented when they were found, because there's an archaeologist digging this thing up, and they're going by the book, and they're doing all this thing, and all of a sudden it's like, what the hell? This is an object that shouldn't physically exist in that time period.
How did this get here? Because it's not supposed to be there.
Right.
I've
It's not
questions about those. Where I see those
buried
things
in the strata.
when I see those things, I've asked questions. Are they things that then we misgauged the time of the things around them?
Well, it's possible that we actually had cell phones 1,000 years ago.
Right, but we haven't actually
likely,
found a cell phone.
not.
We found something that looked like a cell phone.
Well, no,
it looks a lot like a cell phone.
Nokia is an ancient Holocene period.
Oh, did it have a logo on it? I
Yeah.
had seen something about the pictures, and I didn't see Nokia on there. How would that get there? Yeah.
It looks like a Nokia, but the keypad is more like it's written in Sumerian or something.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So have they been able to take that and date anything with it? Or that's
I
the
was
big
thinking
question. I
about the
haven't heard
Timex watch.
beyond the actual found a Nokia cell phone.
I was thinking about the Timex watch when I started down this road, but
Yes, that's another one. Yep.
found in a
I do
tomb.
remember the one with the Timex watch.
Where am I here?
And
How about the hammer that was found in stone, or the cast iron pot found in the layer of coal?
Yes.
I mean, and that's not super technological, but it's like supposedly cast iron wasn't being done then.
Yep. So I'd like to see a lot of these things, how they came to the conclusions finally, rather than just, we found this object. And
But
it looks
the
like,
problem is, with many of those objects, they put it in a box, and top people will be studying them, and they disappear into a warehouse. And
I love
nobody's
that reference,
studying.
Dave. That's sweet.
Yes,
It's
yes.
like top men.
But isn't that always the way? It's just like, not far from us in the Twin Cities, there was an archaeological dig taking place on a farm where they unearthed what they at first thought were First Nation people. But the femurs were really long. Like these people would have been 8-9 feet tall, maybe longer. And the people from the Smithsonian came in, shut the dig down, said you're not allowed to legally dig on this land. He's like, I freaking own this land. What do you mean I can't dig on it? They're like, no, you can't.
yes.
We'll seize the property by federal law by federal government if you continue this.
Yes. Now, the same thing happened in northern Minnesota. Scott Walter, when he was looking for his show, America on Earth.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about
and
that one.
The University of Minnesota came in.
With the Smithsonian. They brought in somebody from the Smithsonian because they could throw federal weight at them.
The University of Minnesota came in first. And then they brought in somebody from the Smithsonian, and then all of a sudden they don't exist anymore. Let me show you this picture, guys. I'm going to share my screen here. Boom and boom. All right, let's go over to this one right here. Now I went and I looked up, here's your Nokia cell phone. And here's the artifact that was supposedly found. And you don't see any pictures of it in situ here, but you see cuneiform. So the big question
when those pictures first came about, they were showing them in situ.
Okay.
They were showing them being found in the dig.
Yeah, I'm looking just to see what they've got here. And
I've got a whole digital file on forbidden archaeology. There's a lot of stuff out there.
And Michelle,
and some of it I shake my head at and laugh, and some of it I look at and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. What the hell is that? How did that get there?
Well, Michelle in the chat just mentioned Tartaria, and that's a whole nother. It's very interesting.
That doesn't want to.
And this
large images.
Can you hear me all right?
I can.
Am I here? Is this thing on?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
This is you entering the mind zone. So one of the things that I find very interesting is another little aspect of this whole time travel thing is, are you familiar with Fomenko's work? He's a Russian mathematician about missing.
By name only, I've not.
So he's done this massive tome. I think it's 7 or 8 volumes or more of research.
He's Russian. That's the way they write.
It's about his theory, which, interestingly enough, I had no idea, but Newton also supported the same theory, that from the current era, or AD, through now, and Newton was obviously covering it up through 1700s, there was at least 1,000 years that was added to the history of our timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
That there's this massive gap, that demonstrable. And there's a guy, there's a couple of YouTube guys that are doing some really great series on this. But the whole idea is that we're really not in 2022. We're actually in 1122. So there's been this time that's been added to the record, particularly during the medieval period. And there's varying theories. It seems like at the end of the fall of the Roman Empire in the 400s to around 500 AD as we know it, or Common Era, the next 700 years just kind of that's when they called the Dark Ages, the medieval period, and nothing happened. Apparently there was nothing built. There was no new cultures and groups. Just whatever was happening when the Roman Empire fell was all of a sudden, all of this amazing shit started happening 700 years ago, or 700 years later. So this disconnect, and you can see it in, there was all the Julian and Gregorian calendar screwing around where they were moving months, and because the moons and everything, seasons out of whack because number of days and calculation were wrong. There's apparently been at least 700, and Newton thinks there was 1,000 years that have been added to the timeline that shouldn't be there.
You see, and that's interesting because you think you can account for everything, but there are pockets of time after, like you say, after the fall of Rome, where you don't see a whole hell of a lot going on, and not a lot of recorded history.
And I look at it differently. I also look at the fact that, so modern academia says man didn't really start civilization until what, 12, 15,000 years ago, maybe tops, right? And yet right. I think civilization has risen and fallen and risen and fallen hundreds of times over millions of years. And one of the things I point at, look at today. If we ended today, what from our technology would be here 1,000 years from now, or 10,000 years from now, or 100,000 years? Glass and steel will all go away. The things that we've built in stone, Mount Rushmore, and the guy who carved it said Mount Rushmore won't be done for 10,000 years because he figured in erosion. Okay, so that's going to be around for a long time. There's a handful of other stone monuments and things that we built. The pyramids will still be around to some extent in that, 1,000, 2,000 years from now. Sure. But all of our technology will be dust. Our books will be dust. Our homes will be dust. There won't be anything to say this advanced civilization was here. So how do we know if 300,000 years ago there wasn't a civilization that was as advanced as us and traveling to the moon and Mars and wherever else?
Right. Well, that's
because
a lot.
None of that stuff
by the way,
would still be around if they were as advanced as us or more.
Melania, I do hope that it was good name dropping. By the way, something that I talked about on the show once before, when we were talking about somebody's theory on the original language in humanity, and they bring it way back to what's known as now Paleo-Hebrew. Pre-Hebrew, further back than what would be standard Hebrew today.
Yeah, it's called.
And
What I read was it's called First Tongue, and it's a proto
yes,
Semitic,
a proto-Semitic religion, Semitic
language that
language.
has all these interesting characteristics. Oh, speaking of that, before I
And-
forget, did you see that link I sent you on Voynich manuscript? They decoded it. I sent you a link.
Oh,
Yes,
I did not get that.
Yeah,
if
I'll
I got
send it
it,
to you
I
again.
haven't seen it.
because
I'll have to
there's
look it
another
up.
like what?
Well, the interesting thing I was going to bring up about the original language and looking into that, they were talking about how they related back to some older books like the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, some of these books that were supposed to be lost books of the Bible. Well, they're not lost anymore. Somebody found them. But yeah, and it talks about how Enoch was considered in biblical speak. Enoch was the first man to be given the knowledge of weights and measures and language. And so they attribute the original language back to him. This is in biblical writ, of course, that he was first to be given by God the understanding of weights, measures, and language. Now, of course, Enoch, the books date back not very far, but the stories in the books date back further. How far back are you going? This is supposed to be Enoch, after the time of the flood. And so if there's anything to this, now they talk about, and they made some connections between the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Pyramid of Cheops, how that pyramid, the speculation was being made was Enoch the actual architect of the pyramid that we now know as the Pyramid of Cheops, and is that pyramid much older than we think it is?
Yes.
And
Don't you think that Enoch is an archetype of a much older iteration of the same story?
Yes, I think it's a much older iteration. Was Enoch ever a literal guy? Maybe.
Yeah.
We don't know for sure.
Yes.
The Masons say yes. And so
what makes me say yes?
Yeah.
Is that what you asked?
What can you tell without having us killed?
This makes me say yes.
Oh, okay, there you go. There it is. His Masonic connections. Yeah, that's why I say the Masons say yes. And that there was something about the measurement of the Great Pyramid, all those measurements that make up the size and the shape, the whatever you call the platform and the height and so on, all fit some of the basic measurements of things that go all the way back into Enochian.
Hell, it covers the Earth, the distance to the moon, the size of the moon, the sun.
Right.
I mean, so all to me, all that speaks to is our. We haven't discovered anything. We found the math of the universe in an expressible way that we can define. Because you think about what are numbers? Numbers are symbols, right?
Yep.
And
symbols are everything,
right? Symbols are one image that can convey an entire novel.
Yes.
Especially if one is an initiate and becomes an adept in said symbol.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? So math, if numbers are symbols, then they are a language with which to express something that has a whole bunch of other, words and adjectives and everything associated with what that symbol means and what the action is that you're taking on said symbol. Are you rubbing the symbol?
Huh.
Are you staring and meditating on the symbol? Are you polishing your symbol?
Mm-hmm.
Don't polish your symbol, dude. That's
now this author that I was reading made a point of taking this Paleo Hebrew and taking the first letter of the alphabet and taking, like, I think something as simple as one of those bread twist ties that goes you find on every loaf of bread, and made the letter out, the shape of the letter, and took that letter without bending it or anything, and every different angle, conceived angle and three-dimensional angle, tipping it forward, backward, sideways, diagonal, you could make the character in 2 dimensions by looking at it. No matter what three-dimensional angle it was at, in 2 dimensions, it could create every single letter in that paleo alphabet off of that one letter. And the one letter really stood for the first. It stood for, the meaning was the first letter, the number one letter, the thing, the alphabet. And what they found too was if you took the Great Pyramid of Cheops. Now, I've got a lot of the surrounding information around this is gone because it's been a long time since I studied it. But if you took the pyramid and looked at it overhead, and you see it as a 2-dimensional overhead all the way through from the tip all the way down to the bottom. And you could see all the shafts and everything like that.
One of the things that blew me away when I first saw it is that it's 8-sided.
Yes, it is.
I went, whoa, I didn't see that.
Well, they took one of the letters in this this twisted up bread thing, and if you laid it just right at the right angle, it matched all of the corridors and the shafts that are running through the Great Pyramid. And so it was interesting. I don't remember the significance of that other than that it did that. And so I've got to look that stuff up again and really, there's a book. I can tell you what the title is and who the author is of this book, and that might help a little bit. Here, I got to see if I can open it up here and get it in my library online. That book is called the, let's see, I'm looking. Is this it? A Holy Language? In Search of the Holy Language by Anita Meyer is the name of the book. And it's very interesting stuff. And I had gone through all of this. She's got photographs in there of twisting how I'm looking at it right here, how the complete Hebrew alphabet. Here, let me show you something, guys, since we're on this. I'm going to share my screen one more time with you here. Share screen, boom. So if I go over here to my Kindle library, and I want to open this up a little bit. Let's see if we can look at this. It's right here. Will it let me blow that up? Nah. That's a search. Okay. When one takes this one prototype form, she says, of this alphabet, which is taking this letter and creating the other letters out of it. She said, here's a complete Hebrew alphabet consisting of 22 letters, including the 5 final letters that are produced from this one prototype form. And you can see here, it's hard to tell in these smaller pictures, but you can get the idea of what she's done there. And I want to see if there is a still of this pyramid, which will give you no. It might be way out here a little bit, and see if we see it. Now into other things here now. But she was going through prototypes and all these shapes and all of this and how it all fit into what she was referring to as holy language. So this book, I think, is actually going to be a very good book for you guys all to look at if you'd like to. Or to just go right here. It's called In Search of the Holy Language by Anita Meyer, Meyer. So if you look that up, you're going to see some very interesting stuff on this paleo language thing. All right, let me stop sharing. Boom, there we go. Anyway, that was a good side note, or a good sidebar to what we were talking about.
So on the paleo side, let me toss this thought onto the table. So the general narrative of the human species as to where we are now comes from this tree with all these branches of different manifestations of some kind of hominid thing, and survival of fittest, we end up as the homo at the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it appears that form that we currently are normalized some 200,000 to 300,000 years ago.
Okay.
Our brain size, our uprightness, our fiddling about and doing what we do in this form, we've been doing it in this form for around that time.
Okay.
So you go, well, all right. So the information that we have in the timeline of that development, that existence, the breadcrumbs, the artifacts, the little scratches and paints and things and whatever here and there, seem to kind of support that kind of timeline. And you go, well, what was going on? What at what point did what we think we express and consider our existence? At what was there a turning point from being on the savannah and being like, intermingling with all these different manifestations of primates that were happening around the world simultaneously? There wasn't one place. There was happening all over the place, right? There were these hominids, right? And they've apparently been around for at least 1 million, maybe more years. Seems like there's kind of data squishy, toys and tech are subject, but it's kind of a general, okay, we'll use those metrics. We'll use those markers. So at some point, about 50,000 years ago, is the current narrative that there was a change in the psychology of the Homo sapiens that we are, that changed the course of the next 50,000 years. And it was this, there was apparently, and Terence McKenna's got a great line with this. Apparently, there was a synergy, a confluence, an integration of different types of intelligences that were required in order for this hominid creature to begin to culturalize, if you will, to communitize, to create groups based on, I had sex, oh, this thing came out, we're gonna need more of them. Okay, keep doing that.
Yeah.
So there was something that happened. The historical intelligence, social intelligence, technical intelligence, being able to build things and whatever, hunting and gathering intelligence, all of those seem to coalesce together in a way that created or apparently stimulated the expression of art. So art all of a sudden became this, like, where did that come from? And when
I was drinking paint and I didn't like it, and I went, and I put a handprint on the wall, and I went, oh my God, that's cool.
Look what I got. Yeah.
I want more of that. So there was this artistic, the coalescing of all those different intelligences with more people to exercise those intelligences with. They just kept getting fine-tuned, and because they kept getting expressed, because they worked, right? So
right.
But the unique marker seems to be this artistic explosion that all of a sudden comes out of nowhere, and it's incredible.
what is in the water in France, because there's that famous cave there with all the famous cave paintings in France, and then all through the modern era, that's where painting really flourishes, is in France.
It was what's going on over
after Florence, anyways.
Right. I was going to say, well, there is Florence.
Yeah. Oh, that little thing, that town in Italy, those guys, they got together and painted a couple.
He imported his water from Paris.
So oddly enough, what I'm going to share with you next ties back to our original theme of the show of time travel. Okay. So this is, and Melinda knows this. This is rare that I'm able to come back and go, oh, stuck that.
Let's hear it.
So Terence McKenna, so there's this timeline is somewhere in this 50,000 year, and this is going to be during the last glacial period.
Right.
It's going to be a lot of ice everywhere. So people are going to be limited to where they are doing their thing. Right. But there's this confluence of these intelligences that result in this artistic expression that, I mean, I'm telling you, some of that cave art is like, I'd put that on my wall too.
Oh yeah.
It's beautiful. It's amazing.
It's pretty amazing.
It's gorgeous, and it's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, Now, could the dates be wrong? Maybe, but there are other parts like that in Indonesia, and other places around the world where you go, yeah, there's something else going on here. So, Terence McKenna, our favorite shroom man, his hypothesis is that during that time, during the middle of that glacial period, that there were certain mushrooms that grew well in that during that climate and during that period.
Okay.
And the shrooms, the psilocybin, was a candidate for the fuel, the catalyst to integrate all these different intelligences that then expressed itself in art.
Interesting. So they were all pretty much met at one big meeting, smoked the same pipe, and went, let there be art.
Walt Disney was a huge fan of having artists experiment with LSD and things like that to open their consciousness and let the art flow.
Yeah, nice. I used to say rather flippantly years ago that when I was writing some of my earlier books, The Rise and Fall of the Nephilim, I was writing that through 2010, 2011, and I used to postulate rather tongue-in-cheek that perhaps that what looks like all these religions around the ancient world that seem to have these same flood accounts, similar accounts of a great deluge, only with differing casts of characters and differing factoids. They all really came down on one basic proto story, that there was a great flood. And
there was a
the
shitload
etiology of this, of course, or some just say this is just etiology. This is how we just, with our spiritual stories and our myths and our legends, that which is unexplainable to the human mind. Great deluge. How did we explain that? But what I came down to rather tongue-in-cheek was to say it's either everybody experienced the same thing, or everybody got together for some great ecumenical bonfire conference, met somewhere in, I don't know, what is now Persia, and they all smoked the same. They also smoked the same shit, and they all went home with a version of their own version of the story.
I think I got it. Oh, dude, we really fucked up. We completely flooded the planet, man. Okay, let's get our story straight. Okay.
Okay. Wait. Yeah.
Hey, Scotty, have you ever had Afghani finger hash?
I don't know if I've had finger hash. I used to go to a restaurant called the Afghan over by 694.
There hasn't been
You
good
would know
hash
this.
in America since the 70s.
Yeah. Not since I watched Moonlight Express.
Oh my goodness.
Not Moonlight Express. What was it? Was it Moonlight Express? That movie
Midnight
about the
Express.
guy? What?
Midnight Express.
Midnight Express. And but there was a little restaurant, an Afghani restaurant in South Minneapolis I used to go to.
Not the same thing.
No,
not the same thing. No, I don't think I ever had Afghani finger hash.
And one of the other oddities, and I've only, when I have the opportunity, I poke around because I got to find out if anybody else remembers some of this crazy shit. But we used to get opiated tie sticks.
Oh,
did you ever have a tie stick?
Yep.
So these were. Really
I haven't had them opiated.
These were really nice ones, about that big, and they had been dipped in opium and set out to dry.
Interesting.
That was the only time, and I've done sugar, barrel, Chinese blotter, the cube. I think we've done like 5 or 6 times I did acid. Never saw shit. Never had pink elephant.
Never had nothing happen.
Never had nothing. Nothing. But when
you will.
When I did that opiated tie stick, it was also after the Chinese blotter, and I have to say, of all of them, the one I enjoyed the most was the Chinese blotter. It was like this little tiny, less than a 8 square, and you could see a little Chinese character on it, and you just put it on your tongue. We laughed. I think it was like 6 of us. We laughed for hours, and we were laughing so hard we were in cramps. And we were laughing at how much the cramps hurt.
Nice.
Don't do drugs.
That's one of those things where you take that little pill and you put it on your tongue and you go, well, yeah, I don't know about this stuff. I don't feel any. So what did somebody say? Oh, Elderberry said he lived down the street from that prison in Izmir for over 2 years. Nice. Hash, buy it from the Persians. So he's still here, Melinda. He's still here. So, well, it was a fun topic. I think we have not delved the depths of it, though. The time travel topic. We're going to have to come back to this. Maybe sometime next week we'll do another show on this. And,
well, I find for me, just, the articles, links that I had up there, those, each one of them, you can go spend, 20 minutes diving into going, well, what's going on there? I think that in order to have a productive exploration of any kind of data stack, you need to have as much of the baseline as possible, right? What is this subject about? That's why I started with time and then went to time travel, because the whole concept of traveling in time,
you got to baseline your data.
Well, right, because everybody's perspective, and this is Einstein, right? It's relativity. It's all relative.
Sure.
Yeah, and here's a simple. You want to talk about time travel? How many times? Everybody. There's nobody in the chat tonight, or nobody who will play this back and listen to this that will say that's bullshit. And that is this. Everyone.
Is Niall not here?
Everyone has had at least one, if not many, experiences of time speeding up and time slowing down. Everyone.
And the big question is, have those really sped up and slowed down, or is our perception of it because of whatever we're taking or doing or experiencing or whatever? So,
right. I mean, but that subtle shift in perception is something that is everybody experiences. It's part of the fluidity of time. It's the way that it's the nature and habit of time. I think time, my perspective is there's definitely a linearity, if you will, of time. There's a sequence and it goes like this, and it's pretty reliable. It's demonstrable. It's repeatable. It's offensible, and it's happening all the time. And that's otherwise you don't function in the stuff that you're functioning with others in. If that made any sense.
Lost time, Lelania. It's a totally
Any
different
artist
thing.
will tell you when you start a project, it seems like you've got an infinite amount of time, and then you lose time and it's due. And you're like, how did that happen?
How'd that happen? Exactly.
Right,
I
so I
lose
think-
time when I paint. When I illustrate, I can start an illustration and it's 10 in the morning, I'm working on something, and I'll look up and it's 6 at night, and I'm like, where'd my day just go? And I look and I can gauge it by the progress in my illustration, but I will absolutely zone out and lose time when I paint. So,
well, I mean,
by the way, Lelania, if I can ask, you said I've got to imagine that was Rocky and Ron. You're talking about the other radio show, and Rainey's UFO shirt. Are they talking about the shirt itself or about her pictures with the shirt? I'm just curious. So, yeah. Because,
so one of the things we didn't talk about on the metaphysical side was astral travel.
Yes.
Okay, which is a very apparently there's a lot of activity around that activity. Is that right? Yeah. And that's fascinating to me. That's another variant of the remote viewing,
yes,
the clairvoyance aspects of our psychic nature. So, I mean, there's what's interesting to me as well is there's so much out there, and it seems like it's really complicated or it's complex, but it's really fucking simple.
Yeah.
And because it's for me, and I'm like, okay, right, that all of that makes sense. So being aware of that, of the status of stuff, sus in situ, knowledge of now, knowing that this is what is at the moment, that you are living in the future as you do that, because as you figure out where the hell you are, you're already figuring out what your next move is.
Well, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I mean,
if you're thinking,
well, you got to be present while life is in session.
Yes.
There's not a lot of that going on right now.
I am Lelania. You tell me, and this is for everybody's benefit. I was listening. I'm doing though because I'm planning for my next step here on the show. If I share my screen one more time, Lelania, I believe this is what she's talking about. Has nothing to do with time travel, but it does have to do with. Here's my Son of a Patriot site with all our T-shirts and stuff. I think this is the one you're talking about. It would be this one, and probably, knowing Rocky, it would be, well, it's going to show up or not. Wherever it is. There it is. It would probably be that picture of my wife showing off her UFO shirt, which says, hop in, loser, we're doing butt stuff. And, and there it is.
As a couple of fellow explorers and travelers and
yes,
independent thinkers and seekers, as we are alike, right?
Yes, we are.
I'd like to just toss this out and toss one back to this. How many decades have each one of us been hanging out there on the fringe, telling people this and telling people that.
Yeah.
Looking at us going, dude, I don't know what you're talking about, but you ain't all that.
Yeah, that's right. You ain't all that.
Then the stuff, then the horse that you're eating and riding, you might want to, get yourself a real job or get yourself a real life. And
how's that working for you?
because all of that UFO, alien, pot, fuck the government, they're coming after you. Money systems corrupt. All the stuff is bullshit. Medical systems corrupt. Media is corrupt. I mean, the whole thing is infiltrated by people who have an agenda that is not in your best interest. And it's been that way for decades. And I was telling you all back then that why am I moving to a homestead? Because this ain't right.
Yeah.
There's nothing, and it's not getting any better. It's only going to get worse. Yeah, okay. Go live up on the hill, old man, and yell at the clouds.
Yeah, I would
Fast
agree with
forward to 2022.
Oh, Lelania in the chat room. I see. Oh, it was Britt. It had to be Britt and Jimmy Johnson then. Maybe. At least Britt Griffith. And he loves the shirt. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Makes sense now.
So anyway, I just wanted to toss that out there and tip and toss one for because I know you guys, you completely related with what I just said.
Absolutely.
Dave? Yep.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely.
So
without question.
We have to support our own. We have to acknowledge our perseverance and our foresight and our here we are.
Yeah.
The only thing that sucks about it is that we are it's almost like we're like SEAL team. We're the only ones that have enough knowledge and experience and intent to go fix this shit. The people that are coming up behind us, you got two choices. They're either going to be adaptable, ergo trainable, or they're going to be fucking useless. You got to just know. You have to come too far to be of service.
Yes.
So you go sit over here in the corner. We'll find something else for you to do. But we need people that can actually do something and have some kind of capability of thinking critically and strategically.
And what don't they teach in school anymore? How to critically think.
I rest my case.
There it is.
Right. I mean, so yeah, thinking is thank goodness that we were doing it a long time ago.
Well, yeah.
And it feels kind of good to be sort of vetted a little bit, kind of.
Yes.
You don't have to say I was right. I'll say it for you.
Yes. I'll say it for you. I'll share it with you.
Right. So I'm feeling a little bit of that. It may have something to do with the double IPA I just had, but
I was going to say, or you're feeling the double IPA you just had. So let's see. I gotta just paste something into the chat room before we start wrapping up here. I think this is it. I think. Copy. Folks in the chat room, you can go here. I know this is not riveting radio, but oh no, that ain't it. I hate those links that are like a page long. Never mind. That's not it. Don't worry about it. Just go to
what did you think of that link I sent you this morning?
Shop / boom. There you go. That's where you can all go. That link you sent me this morning, I'll have to take a look at that in a bit.
Oh, you really haven't
not for right now. I'm running out of juice for tonight, even though it's Friday. So,
hey, I've got a quick little music lude that I'd like to share for the closing of the show.
All right.
Here we go. Hold on one second. The hell am
What
I
do you
doing?
got?
Where is it?
See, they run this all by me ahead of time.
And do this, some of this. Because, I mean, it's just, again, it's in honor of our conversation.
All right. Oh, sure. There it is.
Do you remember when this came out?
Yes.
Oh my God. You know, when we went to get music, we had to go to the record store.
Yeah.
Right.
Dave, do you remember Fug, F-U-G, Fug Records over near Camden on Lyndale Avenue?
I don't remember Fug, but I was thinking of, what was it, Northern Light? Downtown Hennepin?
Electric Fetus was over South Minneapolis.
On Stevens.
The Electric Fetus, man. Professor Bauer, that was the place to go get records, LPs in the day.
We had, I think we had as we did in LA, which is one of those really cool things from just a personal experience. We had the first Tower Records, and we had all these really, all these boutique shops, which are just like legendary and amazing. And you knew they were amazing when you went into them. Then when you think back on how fucking amazing that stuff was, it was something else. But
all right, gents, I'm going to call this a night. Dave is going to continue painting.
Yeah, probably for
Professor
several
Bauer
hours.
is going to continue drinking.
Yes, I am.
And I don't know what I'm going to do. My whole family's sleeping already.
Really?
So I guess I'll go crawl into bed. So, or I'll
See you
watch
Sunday
TV
morning.
first. What?
See you Sunday morning.
Sunday morning it is for 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. It'll be It's Sunday right here. If you haven't been here on Sunday mornings, that's when Rainey will usually make an appearance. So we'll see how she's doing on Sunday.
For sure, at least one of the kids will.
Yeah, or several of them. So you know how it goes. All right, everybody. So for everybody else sitting here right now,
Thanks,
I'm
gentlemen.
going to give us our out, and we're going to play just for the fun of it, as we've been doing at the end of the Captain's Cabin. We'll just put on the Sunday morning It's Sunday opener, and just to prep you for It's Sunday. All right, everybody. So you know what? Live long and prosper.